Geek Therapy Radio.
Welcome to the Geek Therapy Radio podcast. I'm your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger, reminding you that here at Geek Therapy Radio, we're all geeks about something, so embrace your inner geek. You are worthy of love, both giving and receiving love, and you are worthy of your own self-worth and self-respect. And one of the ways I think we do that, one of the ways I think that we, inch by inch, gain that self-respect day by day, is by embracing our geek thing, embracing an old hobby, rekindling an old hobby, finding a new hobby. I think that's one way that we find out, hey, I'm actually good at something. And we actually kind of chip away at that wall between us and our own self-worth. So I implore you, please try to do that. And it's one of the things I try to do at Geek Therapy Radio is cover so many different geeky things that maybe I might say something or speak to something or speak about some subject that's you might find interesting. Maybe you don't find, maybe you've been listening to Geek Therapy Radio for a long time and you haven't been particularly interested in any subject yet, any branch of geekdom yet. But there will come a day when I do touch on something that kind of, oh, that sounds really interesting. Maybe I'll get into that. I was talking about SDR radio, was it a week ago, a couple weeks ago? And a few of you reached out to me saying that that sounded really cool and it was something you'd get into, or it's something you had done in the past and kind of fell out of, but now hearing me talk about it again kind of re-energized you to look back into it. So, you know, who knows what I'll bring up here on Geek Therapy Radio to get you all interested in something, because that's really what I'm trying to do here is maybe through my excitement, maybe if I'm talking about something that's cool to me, and most of the time I am talking about something that's cool to me, but I'm just fascinated by so many different things. Maybe you'll hear my enthusiasm for it, and maybe you say, I'll look into that, and maybe it winds up being a really cool thing for you, a saving grace in your life. Who knows? Who knows what it amounts to, either a passing fancy or something that actually saves you from a deep, dark depression. Whatever it is, that's what Geek Therapy Radio is here for. That's what I'm here for. And today, this is not a particularly tantalizing subject, but we're going to talk about video games a little bit, at least for this first story here. If I wind up talking about this for the entirety of the podcast, hey, that's okay. Podcast is all about freedom, baby. Freedom to say whatever I want to say, talk about whatever I want to talk about. No commercial breaks, no sponsor breaks. Well, until someone sponsors the podcast. Let's be real here. I want to eat. But yeah, it's way more free form. Even if I do have sponsors for the podcast, they would be in their own kind of relegated area so that you know exactly. Full transparency. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So yeah, today, video games, but specifically, I wanted to at least start with Rocket League. I played Rocket League the other day for an hour and a half, 2 hours. My wife might think it's more because she was on the couch next to me playing Sudoku. On the Nintendo Switch, and it was a really nice, just kind of Rocket League session. I haven't just sat down and played Rocket League for any amount of time recently, so it felt good just to bang out a few rounds of Rocket League on the Nintendo Switch. After all, it's funny. The entire reason that I wanted the Nintendo Switch was because it had Rocket League. The idea of playing a handheld portable version of Rocket League was just too tantalizing to pass up. I still think Rocket League would work natively on a relatively decent flagship smartphone, like my Samsung Galaxy Note 9 from a couple years ago. If it runs on the Nintendo Switch, then a port of it should run on the Galaxy Note 9 or Galaxy Note 10 or any modern smartphone. Now I know, yes, the Tegra X1 NVIDIA chip inside of the Nintendo Switch is more powerful, especially the... actually, I take that back. It's not more powerful on the whole, but the GPU side of it is definitely more powerful than flagship smartphones. That said, they are still pretty powerful smartphones, that is, flagship, top-tier smartphones. So in the Nintendo Switch, you can choose whether you want to favor visuals or you want to favor performance. I always, by default, in any game ever, I always choose, well, especially esports, I choose performance over visuals. Now, you've always been able to do this on the PC and on the Mac and everything, and on the Linux. You could dial in the visual effects to give you better performance or vice versa. But you can do that on the Switch. So you can choose visuals or performance on the Switch. So why wouldn't you be able to do that on a smartphone? Basically, really ramp down the settings, possibly even the resolution, and have Rocket League on a smartphone. That begs another question. If Rocket League were to come to the smartphone, how would you play it? What controls would you use? Rubbing the screen would suck. And then you'd have, what do you call it? Cross-platform play. You wouldn't want to be on your Nintendo Switch or your PC or your Xbox or your PlayStation or whatever you're playing Rocket League on and be matched up with somebody rubbing their thumbs on the screen. I get that. I think the way they could implement it on a smartphone is have two modes of control, which a lot of games do this. You can play, what is it? I think PUBG and Fortnite, I believe. If you attach a Bluetooth controller, you can map the buttons to the Bluetooth controller. Why wouldn't you be able to do that with Rocket League also? Have a Bluetooth controller with a cradle, put your phone in there, sync it up with your smartphone and basically play Rocket League Switch style wherever you are with your smartphone if you carry a Bluetooth controller with you, which I do at all times. Push up my glasses. I always have a Bluetooth controller with me. Just on my person, I've got that little 8-bit Do Zero Bluetooth controller. But anyways, let's get back on the track. This is really what I wanted to talk about. I can talk wishful thinking about Rocket League coming to smartphones all day long. While I would love to see that happen, I'm not holding my breath, let's just say. So the news today that just dropped a few hours ago is that Rocket League is going to drop support for Mac and Linux in March. That means if you bought Rocket League on Steam for Mac or Linux, you will no longer be able to do anything with Rocket League that requires an online connection. That is, you won't be able to download any more, patches for it. You won't, or DLC content for it. You won't be able to. The most important thing is you won't be able to engage in cross-platform online play. And to me, if you take that part of Rocket League away, the ability to play with people from all around the world over an internet connection, it's not a game anymore. Nobody would want to play that unless you bring a friend over and you do split screen and you're playing two-player, sitting on the same couch. But that's not what Rocket League... That cripples 90% of the game to remove online capability for the Rocket League. So if you have Mac or Linux versions of Rocket League, as of March, Epic Games is ceasing support for any online activity for Rocket League. Psyonix created Rocket League, but I believe a little less than a year ago, 8 or 9 months ago, Epic buy Psyonix? Epic took control. Rocket League is now an Epic game. So shortly after Epic took control of Rocket League, they are committing homicide on Rocket League for Mac users and Linux users. They even have gone so far to say that you can still play Rocket League if you've downloaded Rocket League on Steam and you buy a Windows license and get a PC and install Windows, then you can still play Rocket League on there. Okay, you know what? Not counting... Oh my gosh. The reasons why that is so ridiculous. And just to reiterate here, or just to remind people, gamers don't really like Epic. Epic is kind of... The consensus about Epic is that a lot of gamers hate Epic for the way they screw people over. Epic owns Fortnite. A lot of people don't like the way Epic has handled Fortnite in the way that it has arguably, quote unquote, tricked 12-year-olds into, buying hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars worth of DLC and outfits and things that have no effect on the game. But basically, they're bullied by their peers. You don't have this costume? You need to buy this costume. Dad, can I borrow the credit card? I need to download a hat for my character. Are you kidding me? Epic has been setting the stage for a while now of being fairly unethical. Now, that is only my opinion. I am not saying that they are doing anything wrong legally, but there's a whole lot of stuff you can do legally that is still morally reprehensible. And I understand a company trying to make a profit, but the way that Epic has gone about it, especially with Fortnite and DLC and everything like this, is kind of, leaves a lot to be desired morally. So it doesn't surprise me that once Epic gets a hold of Rocket League, that they start screwing people over. In having the detachment and the balls to say, well, you can still play it online if you just buy a copy of Windows. People don't buy Macs or install Linux operating systems because they like Windows or they want Windows. They usually go Mac, and they especially go Linux when they hate Windows. That's why they use those alternative operating systems. There are still plenty of games that you can play natively on Linux. Now, you can still arguably play Rocket League on Linux through different Windows virtual machines or whatever you want to call it, like Boot Camp on Mac, Wine on Linux. There's all sorts of backdoor ways and rigmarole that you can play PC games on a Linux system and on a Mac system. But if you have Linux and you download it and you have Steam and you purchased Rocket League, you should be able just to fire up Steam on your Linux PC and play Rocket League. You've already paid for it. Do you think Epic is going to issue refunds for this? No. Absolutely not. Not a chance in hell. I pray that I'm wrong about that. They took your money, if you're a Linux Rocket League player, and they're not going to give it back. And you will only be getting about 10% of the functionality of your video game. Odds are you bought Rocket League to play it online with other players around the world. You didn't buy Rocket League to play just by yourself in your room against bots to generate these random games and just play against the computer. No, that wasn't the selling point for Rocket League. You don't watch Rocket League matches on TV, on ESPN, esports competitions in Rocket League, and have collegiate esports and having schools and colleges competing against each other, teams competing each other with Rocket League. He didn't say, oh, that looks nice, but I'm going to buy it just to play by myself against bots. Now, yes, there is a period of learning. If you're serious about Rocket League, there's a learning curve to it. There's a learning curve to getting the physics, learning the physics engine just right. So yes, a lot of time you are spent, at least at the beginning, just playing bots, because you don't want to get online and start slowing everybody down. You want to kind of do the challenges against bots. You want to do the training. You want to play mock games against more advanced bots. There is functionality that way. There is use and value that way. But the ultimate goal for most people, I would imagine, who bought Rocket League is to play online, is to get good online and rank up online. As of March, if you're a Linux or Mac user, you will not be able to run Rocket League natively on Mac OS or Linux, and that sucks. It's a real head scratcher. Epic has said that in a very glancing kind of comment that it's a compatibility issue from new technologies that are coming to Linux and Mac OS. What? What are you talking about? These tools, this is a quote from them, these tools are not officially supported by Psyonix. What tools? What are you talking about? Psyonix's announcement vaguely, I'm reading from Ars Technica, Psyonix's announcement vaguely places the blame for this upcoming change on, quote, adapting to use new technologies, which, quote again, has made it more difficult to support macOS and Linux, SteamOS. But, what does that mean? What does that mean? Someone say that someone also said that it's because macOS is apparently going 32-bit, or what is it? They are going away from 32-bit. They will no longer support 32-bit applications in macOS. I can't comment on that. That is just a glancing something that I've read. I know that there was a hubbub with iOS versus 32-bit and 64-bit apps. But apparently Mac is going towards eliminating compatibility with 32-bit apps. They have to be 64-bit apps. Others have said that that is because of Unreal Engine 4. But correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will, and I please ask that you do. Actually, I could just look it up right now. I believe Rocket League runs on Unreal Engine 3. So them saying... Epic saying that Rocket League won't run on Linux or macOS because of Unreal Engine 4 doesn't seem like it makes a whole lot of sense. And I was right. Rocket League came out several years ago. It runs on Unreal Engine 3. So that Epic thinking that they're going to not support Rocket League anymore for Linux or macOS because of Unreal Engine 4 doesn't make any sense because it doesn't run on Unreal Engine 4. And as far as I've known, as I've researched here, there's only prototypes, like privately created prototypes of Rocket League running on Unreal Engine 4. Like individual users have dabbled with it. In brief, Unreal Engine is for the most part an open source game engine. It's really cool how the owners of Unreal Engine have licensed it. Basically, anybody can tinker with Unreal Engine, especially Unreal Engine 3, Unreal Engine 4, to their heart's content. And there's some sort of royalty thing where if you do make a game and it's successful, that the team at Unreal wants like 10 grand or a percentage, something like that. But anybody can go out there and download the Unreal Engine and start dabbling making games with it for free. To my knowledge, Rocket League has never had any serious intention, unless there's something coming down the pipe that I don't know about, to move over to Unreal Engine 4. It would seem to me that would need to be an entirely brand new game if you redid the entire game engine. All the physics and architecture and all that stuff. So it doesn't make sense. Their excuse that it doesn't work well with new technologies. What new technologies are they talking about? You know what it really seems? Here's my personal opinion on why Epic is doing this. If you're listening and you are one of the more in tune with game development and have your finger on the pulse of game developers, you may already be thinking this. But my theory is that, so here at work, in a lot of office places, if you have a problem with your computer, with your program, with your software, with whatever you're working with on a computer, you have to submit a trouble ticket. That means you have to submit a trouble ticket to IT, to the developer, or whatever. Hey, something's not working right. I need help resolving this issue. I guarantee you that when Epic took over Rocket League, that while it's a minority of users that are playing Rocket compared to who's playing on Windows, while it's a minority of Rocket League players using Linux or Mac OS, it was a disproportionately high trouble ticket. There was a disproportionately high amount of Linux and Mac users that were submitting trouble and issues with Epic, that their game wasn't working quite right on Linux or wasn't working quite right on Mac OS. Now, that doesn't mean that it was a landslide of just an inundation of trouble tickets from Linux and Mac OS users, but I guarantee you let's just for a rough example to kind of conceptualize this. If you have 1,000 Windows users playing Rocket League, maybe 20 of them submit a trouble ticket that Rocket League isn't working right on Windows. Versus you probably had, if there's 100 Linux users and 30 of them were submitting trouble tickets, that's a higher proportion of Linux users having a problem with Rocket League running on Linux. And same thing with Mac. If there's 1,000 Windows users and only 100 Linux users and 100 Mac OS users, but it was 20 Windows users having problems versus 30 Linux users and 40 Mac OS users, what have you, that's a disproportionately high amount of trouble that they're having with the Linux version of Rocket League and Mac OS version of Rocket League. So, Epic probably just said, screw it. Screw it. Screw you guys and gals trying to run Rocket League on Linux and Mac OS. It's not worth our manpower and our time to devote to helping you with your problems if you're using Linux or Mac OS. And that's bullcrap, because Mac users and Linux users have paid their money to use the product. And then Epic turns around and says, hey, you guys are having more issues than normal with this thing, so screw you guys. Screw you. We've taken your money and we're laughing all the way to the bank with it. Refund? What refund? We're not even going to help you resolve your issues with this anymore. You kidding me? This is just ridiculous. Now, I know, maybe you're listening to this and you're the type of person who, you're not a geek about video games. None of this matters to you because you don't play video games. Either your demographic is different. I don't know what your personal story is, but you'd have no care about this particular story because it's dealing with the video game and you're not interested in video games. Well, think about it like this. I just spent the last 20 minutes griping and moaning and complaining and bringing to light this shady business that Epic is pulling on paying customers. Just apply it to a different company. Take a company that here's a better example. Take a product that you really like. It was a company that you very much supported. They were an ethical company. They did everything great by the books. You had no problem with the company at all. Good company. Love the company. Now a bigger company comes along and buys up your favorite company or the company that you love. And that parent company starts moving pieces around and cutting redundancies and saving money here, saving money there, and because anyways, the product that you like is now ruled by an even bigger parent company that has no idea what they're doing, basically has no idea what they're doing, is only after a profit, and is starting to make poor decisions in a search for profit. Decisions that will wind up costing that company on the other end in the long run. So now your favorite product that you've been using for the last 10 years, you've noticed a very big decline in the quality of product. The new company that's taken over that product has said, 90% of what you use this product for is now useless. You can't use it anymore. We are ceasing that aspect of the product. It'd be like buying a bar of soap, I guess, that doesn't clean. Now you're just buying a bar of soap that it just gets you greasy and it doesn't rinse off, and but they still have the same name on it. Still smells the same, still looks like it, but they have made major cost-cutting efforts to decrease support for that product. But they still want you to pay for that product. They'll still offer that product for you, but it's just not going to have all the functionality. They're cutting support for the product. That's basically what's happened here with this video game. So it can happen in any industry. It's always a nail biter when a small company gets bought by a big company. Sometimes the small company gets better because it can use the increased resources of a big company. Vice versa, but what happens most of the time is that a big company swoops in, buys a small company that people love, and just destroy that small company. There's a bunch of executives sitting around in a boardroom 1,000 miles away from where this small company started. They're all wearing suits, or maybe it's casual Friday and they're wearing flip-flops and Benihana t-shirts. And they say, Psionics Rocket League, we'll cut online support for that. We're not going to deal with those IT trouble tickets anymore. We're not going to support that software. But sir, this game there's loyal followers. No, we don't care about it. How much money would it save us this quarter to stop handling the trouble tickets from the Linux users? $500,000. Okay, all right. They're not thinking about the long term. Is that they're poisoning the consumer's perception of the company. Spreading this wildfire of Epic sucks. We hate Epic. We are never buying anything from Epic again. So in the short term, they go to their stockholders and say, we are $500,000 in the black this month because we saved $500,000 not supporting this product anymore. And then the shareholders are, oh, that's great. My stock is still doing good. I don't know if Epic is publicly traded or not. But then a few years goes down the line and they have to answer to their investors why their stock is plummeting because no one's buying their products anymore and everybody hates them and their reputation in the industry is so terrible. It's because of that little stupid short-sighted decision a year ago to end support for a product that people loved. To save a quick dollar. Not having any foresight or care that a few years down the line, your company's going to go under because you've sown the seeds of hatred among your consumer base. Do you know why they don't care? And this is not just specific to Epic right now. I don't know if Epic's going to fail. I don't want any company to fail. I don't want Epic to fail. I just want them to get smarter and be more moral and wise in their decision making. Same for any company. I don't want any company to go under, but I want them to get their punishment if they willfully engage in poor business practices. So anyways, the reason why these executives are making such poor decisions, they know that they're going to retire next year. They're doing whatever they can in the short term to make sure that their 401k and their options and their stock options and everything they get on the tail end and their pension looks good over the next 2 years so that when they retire, they're going out with the company on a temporary high note. They're going to get theirs and get gone. Now, a new employee that has just signed on amongst all of this is seeing, oh, the company's running great. Our profits are really good. Everything's going great. And then by the time they want to retire, the company has gone under. They don't have a 401k anymore. They don't have any retirement. They don't have any options. They don't have any pension because the guy right before them screwed them over in the long run. Because the guy retiring does not give a rat's ass about the new hire coming in wanting to retire in the next 20 years, 30 years, what have you. They don't care. Epic is operating its company like it doesn't care about their longevity because they are going to cut and run at the first sign of the stock falling. The first inclination of a downturn, they're gone. That is how Epic is operating right now, in my opinion. Companies cannot operate like that. They will fail. Conversely, and I'll start wrapping it up with this. You have companies like Nintendo that we love and hate, but mostly love. The reason why people say bad things about Nintendo or have an ill opinion of Nintendo, it's only slight. Overall, they usually love Nintendo, but they have a little qualm about Nintendo sues a lot of people. Nintendo's a little sue happy about their intellectual property. But you can't fault. It's not like you ever hear somebody faulting Nintendo for that or holding a grudge against Nintendo for that, because Nintendo has every legal right to protect their intellectual property. You have every legal right to protect yourself, no matter where you are in the world, whether you're an individual or a corporation. You have that right to defend yourself. And Nintendo is using all of its rights that it has to protect its product, protect its image, protect its brand, and protect its employees. Nintendo has saved so much money over the past few decades that they could release flop after flop after flop after failure after failure after failure, and every single employee that works for Nintendo will still have a good salary, will still have a good retirement, will still have a good 401k, would still have good stock options and good pensions and be taken care of for the rest of their life, because Nintendo has protected its company, protected its identity, and saved its money to ensure its longevity. There's a very famous story of the CEO of Nintendo taking a massive pay cut to his salary. I think it was more than half of his salary. Could you imagine an American CEO cutting his salary in half to make sure that his company stays viable? No. Nintendo had a bad year one time, a bad quarter sometime, and the CEO felt so personally responsible for it that he cut his salary in half to disperse the funds among his employees who otherwise were doing a good job, to stay with the company, keep working for the company, so that we can do something, so that we can get over this failure of the Virtual Boy in 1995, 1996, or whenever it came out, so that you keep working hard so that you have a smash hit like the Wii. And then you release the Wii U and it doesn't do that great, and then you keep working hard, you take that loss, you still have all the savings cushion built up so that you come out with the next smash. Not Smash Brothers, although that's popular, but another Smash console, the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo playing the long game like that has made Nintendo one of the most wealthiest, strongest companies in the world, no matter the industry. Nintendo has so much strength. They can fail so hard for so long and still be perfectly safe and perfectly comfortable. They're operating on the long term. They're not trying to shave $20,000 here, $500,000 here, $50,000 over here, penny pinch, so that the stockholders really like the way they dishonestly work the numbers. They fire 1,000 people to save all that money in the payroll, so the stockholders say, "Oh, we made a lot of profit last week." Oh, you fired 1,000 people. You basically eliminated 1,000 salaries. That's dishonestly. The numbers are correct, but it's dishonest. Nintendo doesn't do that. Good companies don't do that. It's my opinion that Epic is doing that. Epic and other companies. Man, I'm all fired up about this. I thought surely I'd move on to other topics. I looked up the release date, if there's any change on that for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. There's not. It's still going to come out this year, but we do know, and we've known this for a long time, that Flight Simulator is going to come to PC first and then Xbox later. But sometime in 2020. There's no major update on that front. But I didn't really get to that, and it doesn't matter if I did or not, because that's all there really is to say about that. Anyways, thank you for listening to my passionate speeches here on Geek Therapy Radio, getting all fired up. It's the principle of the thing. It's the principle of the thing. Nobody cares what precedents they're setting. They care about what happens now. How do I profit from it now? What is best for my organization right now? Who cares how this is going to screw us in the future when the bad things start happening to us? We just care about what we get our satisfaction right now. If in 10 years, the other side comes back at us with our own medicine, we'll deal with that then. But right now, we want happiness. We want to get it right now. We want our joy right now. We want our pensions to be good right now. We want to retire right now. We want to get rich right now. All right. Thank you for listening to Geek Therapy Radio Podcast. Tell your friends if you like the Geek Therapy Radio Podcast. Above all, know that you're worthy of love, both giving and receiving love. That's important. I will repeat it. All the information is in the podcast description below. Email me, geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. The music is listed below as well. Website is listed below. All that good stuff. I should put a Patreon link again. It's voluntary. Patreon is voluntary. Just keep forgetting to mention it. At any rate, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Talk to you tomorrow if I can talk today. See you then.
Geek Therapy Radio, Saturday night at 10 on KPRC 950. Or listen anytime on our iHeartRadio app.